so many of us are slaves to our email inbox. I know for me, it takes up an enormous percentage of my day. A disproportionate percentage of my day goes to just sifting through emails, many of which are just junk anyway. So, yeah, I was chatting with our guest today, Mauricio Rauld. He's a real estate syndication attorney. He's the partner in Premier Law Group. He's the author of the book Legal Strategies for Everyone. And he said something in passing as we were chatting before the show and talking about different topics for us to discuss. He mentioned how he doesn't do email anymore. And my ears perked up and I was like, you don't do email? Like, how does that work? How do you not do email, as a working professional? So yeah, Mauricio, I'm really excited to chat with you about how you have escaped the endless eternal bog of the email inbox and how other people can do the same thing.
Yeah, and I've only been doing this for just over a year. So I got fortunate enough to come across a great book last year, which I would highly recommend everyone. It's a book by a gentleman by the name of Dan Martell, and it's called Buy Back Your Time. And in that book, one of his number one tenets is to have your first hire as to be an executive assistant. And when he talks about an executive assistant, I mean, he's not just meaning a VA or just somebody to kind of give a bunch of tasks to, but it's literally somebody who takes over portions of your life. And email is not only one of them, it's probably the most big one because it's like you mentioned, you waste so much time on your email. You're just literally Jim Rohn, we talked about Jim a little bit earlier. He used to say, don't confuse movement with achievement. Like you're just doing things in there, but you're not really moving your goals forward. Email to me is a to-do list for everybody else. Like it's everybody else's demands on your time. The analogy that Dan likes to give is like if you had an office in Times Square and right in the middle of it, would you just have an open door where people just come in and ask you questions whenever you want? They just open the door and say, hey, Mauricio, that's what email is. And so what Dan teaches and what I took him up on about a year ago was to hire a really dedicated, great executive assistant, but literally not just to assign them. And like, I am not in the inbox. In fact, I don't even have it on my computer anymore. Like I don't
Wow.
download it. Like I don't know what's going on email. So what happens is, and it takes a little bit of training, right? Because at the beginning you got to get into the rhythm and things, but over time, what the assistant will do is we'll go through the email. Like you said, a lot of it is spam. So right off the bat, you can eliminate all the spam. A lot of them just has to get rerouted. And then there's the ones that are kind of more and more important, at which the assistant over time will learn how to handle. But even the ones that she doesn't, we have a special folder. We have a bunch of little special folders where she'll just move emails into a special folders called review folders. And then every day or every couple of days when we meet, we'll go through those emails that she doesn't know how to respond. And I will ideally not tell her how to, not give her the answer to the email, but actually tell her how the process, the thinking process, hey, next time an email like this comes in, do this, or maybe we need to create an SOP, a standard operating procedure for those types of emails. That's another big thing to do is have SOPs in there so that basically every type of email that comes in, they know eventually you get to a point where you're literally looking at one or two or three emails a day, which are the ones that the assistant doesn't know how to handle. But the key though is to get out of it. Like I don't own my inbox. I don't control my inbox, and I'm actually not allowed to go in there. Like I'm not allowed to go check or double check the work. So that's been a huge game changer because it saves you hours and hours and hours of just not mindless, because obviously some of it is important, but Dan talks about this buyback rate. It's called how to buy back, buy back your time. Everybody has a buyback rate. Like, obviously it depends on how much money you earn. If you're making minimum wage, it may be difficult for you to get some kind of a virtual assistant, at least to start. But at some point, you just got to basically figure out how much money do you earn per hour, divide that by 4, and then that's how much you should be. If anything you're doing can be done by somebody that level or lower, that you should be hiring that. An assistant usually works out that, especially for a professional. If you're making $100,000 a year, that's like, $50 an hour. So, I mean, you can get some people, even if it has to be part-time or a virtual assistant or a VA, whatever. Ideally, you get a full-time person because it's easier to train that person over time. But it's been a game changer for me, like not knowing, and it's not just email, by the way. I don't, text. If somebody texts me, I screenshot it, send it to the assistant. Like I don't respond to text, I don't respond to email. I definitely don't handle my calendar, right? So, I mean, if that calendar come, even this situation, when you reached out, your assistant reached out, we have a process for podcast requests. Somebody comes in, there's a podcast request, there's a process. At some point, we had a discussion on it. But I'm not allowed to go in the inbox. I'm not allowed to handle my calendar, and I'm certainly not allowed to do my travel schedule. So that's another thing that my assistant would always do is she knows now the preferences for airlines, seat locations, hotels. She's got all my hotel numbers, and so it's literally, hey, we've got an event coming up on this date. Go follow our standard operating procedure, get everything on the calendar, get it on our sheet, get everything taken care of, and all the emails that go back and forth and all that. I don't know anything about it. So highly recommend. So the book, again, book is called Buy Back Your Time, or How to Buy Back Your Time, with Dan Martell. Just for me, it's become one of my top 3 or 4 books now of all time for me, that have really made a transformational change in the way I operate and the way I work. So if you have not heard of Dan or his book, I highly recommend you taking it. And I don't get an affiliate or anything for it. It literally has made a transformational. It's at the level of other books that I've read, like The One Thing or Traction by Gino Wickman or Rich Dad Poor Dad. Some of those books, which are, for me, they're not just regular books or really good books. They're transformational books in my personal life.
Yeah, so that book actually has been on my list for the last few months to pick up and read, or more likely listen to. I listen to a lot of books through Audible. There's a guy in a similar space, or the same space, called Ari Meisel, who has written a handful of books and preaching sort of a similar message of buying back your time, and delegating these entire portions of your life to someone else. And our entire business, actually, this year we've really been focusing on trying to streamline the business, to hand off as many tasks as my co-founder and I can to employees. So, and that we were just meeting today about how our policy is that my personal email address and my co-founder's email address are officially classified. They're top secret. No one's allowed to, we're not allowed to give those out. No one in our company is allowed to give those out to clients, members, prospective clients. All of those emails go through our support inbox. And then, those emails can get escalated to us if there's something important or that only one of us can answer. So we do get called in sometimes for that stuff. But it has made a big difference for us, just trying to reduce the inflow of emails to our inboxes.
I mean, even in I think an extreme situation. I mean, even if you're getting a lot of emails and you spend an hour a day sitting down, and we do, and sometimes I do it on a walk, sometimes I do a Zoom. Like, we'll meet with the assistant, but even if it's an hour of your time, which is a lot, it shouldn't take that long. It takes me 30 minutes to go through everything, but an hour of your time, it's focused time. That's how much time I'm spending on email for that day. And then you've got the rest of the day to focus on really what's important for you and your business to drive that forward. And you're not getting distracted by the notifications, by going in every 10 seconds. You've got somebody handling that. And then obviously, if it's something super urgent, they'll call me or they'll text me and say, hey, the email came in from so-and-so. It sounds urgent. What do you want me to do about it, if they don't already know how to handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you add up the total amount of time that the average person spends a day on email, I don't know what the exact number is, but it's in the multiple hours, right? It's way more than 30 minutes or 60 minutes. So,
and I would say, even I would say it's a disservice to even add up the minutes the way most people would add it up, because the time it takes you to go back and forth from whatever project you're working on or doing to email to going back and forth, that alone takes a bazillion hours. So
and that distraction is reducing the quality of the work that you're doing. You're trying to do focus work on. Yeah, one other thing that you mentioned that I just wanted to highlight, because I think it's really useful, is that notion of having inbox folders. That's one thing that we've started doing in our business as well. So, as our listeners know, we run a real estate investment club, a passive real estate investment club. So part of what my co-founder Denny and I do is we're constantly networking with syndicators and other types of operators, getting on their email lists for deals as those deals come along. But those deals were just flooding our inboxes. And it's important that we get those so we can review them and say, oh, which one do we think is a good fit for next month's, featured investment in our club. But they were flooding our personal inboxes. So we had all of those start to go to our support inbox. And then our team just puts those in one folder in the support inbox. So whenever my partner and I are ready to find this month's deal or next month's deal and, review those, we just go into the inbox and click on that folder and just browse through them and say, oh, this might be a good fit, or maybe that's a good fit, instead of having them just constantly flooding our inbox. So that notion of having folders and having a VA or an executive assistant go in and sort your mail for you in those folders, some of those emails you do want to get, but you don't necessarily need to see them in real time or even, every few days. It could be something that you only need to check once a week, once every couple weeks.
Right.
So that was a great tip. And we'll share a link in the show notes to a VA service that we've started using. They're a little bit more expensive than your typical VA service, but they're also super professional. And they have a lot of different like sub experts, sort of niche experts. So depending on your needs, they have somebody who can do anything you need, from graphic design to video editing to inbox management. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, going on a bit of a tangent there, but Mauricio, in 30 seconds or less, how do you help people and how can people connect with you if they want to take you up on that help?
Yes, I'm a real estate syndication attorney. So I help real estate syndicators stay out of jail. I'm also a recovering asset protection attorney. I wrote a book called Legal Strategy for Everyone, which is primarily an asset protection book. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can either just go to askmauricio.com because I do a lot of Q&A things on social, or Instagram is a really good place to see me. So if you're on Instagram, go check it out. Go follow me there. I actually do a Mondays with Mauricio where people just ask me questions and I answer them all day on Mondays. So a lot of ways to get a home. I just put out a ton of content. You can just literally probably Google my name. You'll see me pop up somewhere.
I love it. Well, Mauricio, thank you so much for joining us today. And guys, if you enjoy these quick, focused conversations that we have, please rate and review the show. It makes a world of difference to us. And on that note, we will catch you next time. Want the cash flow, appreciation, and tax benefits of real estate without becoming a landlord? You've heard of REITs and real estate crowdfunding, but you probably don't know much about 5 other ways to invest passively in real estate. So we put together a free video course for you to show you how to consistently earn 15% plus returns from 5 lesser known hands-off ways to invest in real estate. And even more importantly, we'll keep risk front and center in that whole discussion. Because really, what's the point of investing for high returns if you also take on high risk, right? So visit sparkrental.com/free to take our free course. Each video is snackable at 10 to 15 minutes long, and the entire course takes less time than watching a movie. Looking forward to chatting with you from within the course.